Good morning, Maria. How are you today?
Good morning, Lourdes. I'm a little under the weather, as they say. Got a little bit of a cold. I think it's just a cold. Um, they actually call it the dispensa flu, quote unquote. But I did the week-long retreat and with a bunch of friends, and a few of us have a little bit of a cold going on. And a friend of ours was saying that it happens, that a lot of people get some sort of detox cold after the week-long event, which was fantastic. It was very, very good. A lot of meditation, which is much, much more meditation than I've ever done. We did almost a 5-hour meditation, and that was insane. I love meditation, but I don't think I'll do that one again. Way too long for me.
Well, it sounds like you had a great time. It sounds like it was a great experience.
It was fantastic. It was the way he tries to get you to homeostasis, because it is a matter of letting go of your story, reframing the past so that it empowers you, and getting into a state of homeostasis, of getting into a peace where you're no longer suffering and you're no longer allowing the past to trigger you. You're less reactive, and you're more calm, and you're more focused on the present and creating your future. And all things that you and I discuss and we believe in. I had never done his week-long, and I thought, you know what? I'm going to give it a try. And it was definitely worth doing. There's a couple of tools that he did use, a modified breath work, which of course I'm trained in. And I decided, I think I like his modified breath work to do on sessions where it's not a full breath work session, which can be a little destabilizing for the person, and you want to be in person. And since most of my sessions are done via Zoom, it's definitely something that I can add, but just do it as a shorter version of it, which won't be too much on anybody doing it on Zoom. Definitely.
Right. That makes sense. Yeah.
Excellent. How was your weekend?
Busy. I spoke at an event for a group of women, and led them in practice, talked about the brain science, and reducing stress, reducing anxiety, and how meditation can really, as you just said, bring us back to a state of inner peace and calm. And it's like wherever you are, whatever you can start at, do that.
Right.
Literally. I mean, there were a couple of women in the room that, they don't meditate, and they've contemplated meditating, or they, weren't aware of what that practice looks like. And so this was a good starting point for them to, first of all, familiarize themselves with some practice, because we did practice together.
Nice.
And also just, demystifying it a bit and giving them permission to start wherever they are with whatever they can do. So, even if you can only do a minute, then do that. And then, next week, go for 2 minutes, and just incrementally increase the time that you're able to sit in meditation, and that will be a benefit. Sure.
Absolutely. The breath is such a powerful thing, besides keeping us alive. But I mean, taking those deep breaths in and exhaling, just to stabilize us and center you.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. And to, like I always say, cultivate calm. Cultivate an inner sense of calm, which we have the ability to do. Right.
Right. And we need to take responsibility for that. Right. Don't rely on other people to make you calm. You can do it yourself. Don't worry about it. Focus on your own resources. And this is something that is a great go-to, where you feel, tilted or off center, you have the power to center yourself by just taking a few breaths.
Yeah, absolutely. In the middle of a day. I mean, so there's formal practice and there's informal practice, right? And
Right,
so
right, right.
in the middle of the day, you can just pause and take a couple of deep breaths and just be in the present moment, and that in and of itself will provide a little relief, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, what's our conversation today?
I think you have some slides that you're going to share, and we're going to talk about feelings. Yeah.
Yeah, sometimes we think that I don't know, sometimes we think it's bad to have a feeling, or sometimes we have a feeling, we don't know what to do with it because we don't understand that it's natural for us to go through cycles of feelings. They're our emotions. There's 6 fundamental emotions, and we cycle through them on a regular basis depending on what's going on in our day. It's not just about being happy. There's a bunch of other emotions that are talking to us that we need to pay attention to, that we need to be aware of.
Yeah. And, this idea of kind of leaning into whatever comes up as opposed to trying to distract ourselves or, change our state by possibly consuming something, whether it's, a beverage, food, Netflix, or I mean,
Right.
that's a whole different conversation.
Yeah, yeah. A very long conversation for sure. Definitely not going to go there.
Right. Oh.
Right. So let me start with the first emotion. Right. So sadness. And we sometimes feel sadness and we don't know why. And in a lot of cases, I would say it's okay to not know what actually triggered you. The most important thing is to be able to allow that sadness and most emotions to just flow through you. And when you feel sadness, maybe you don't know why you feel the sadness. Something could have triggered the sadness earlier in the day or a couple of days ago, and it's finally catching up with you. And it's just telling you that it's time to just allow yourself to cry. There's nothing wrong, men and women, to take a minute and just cry. Allow that grieving process to flow through you so it doesn't get stuck in you. And obviously some emotions, you want, well, all of the emotions, you want them to flow through you. You don't want it to become your personality, right? You don't want to allow that sadness to get stuck energetically. You want it to flow through you and allow yourself to cry. And even if it means, thinking of something sad, journaling, or watching a movie that makes you cry, or having a conversation with someone.
Or putting on a sad song. Something
A sad song, yes.
I guess what I would add is, experience your feelings. Don't try to flee from them. Allow yourself to have that experience. It's coming up for a reason, and don't try to push it aside. Don't try to go around it. Go through the experience of actually honoring and feeling your feelings.
Definitely. Let me go to the next slide.
And this is something that's so important. It's one of our needs to feel connected. And so if you're experiencing loneliness, that is a sign that you need to connect. And so find your path to connection with, someone in your household or in your community, but find a pathway to connect so that, no one has to endure the states of loneliness, and you can seek support or you can seek community, right?
Right, absolutely. I mean, go to a bookstore, have a cup of coffee, walk in nature where there's people, walking around. Uh, taking a little stroll and get connected to nature, or get connected to the people around you that are in the park. Go to a zoo, but do something that you like. Go to a museum. A shared experience will help you feel less lonely, and will remind you that you just need to connect with other people. We don't survive well by ourselves. We're not made that way. We're social beings.
Absolutely.
Oh, and obviously, I know this is one of the topics that I really like talking about, because shame is something that a lot of people experience, and it's often used as a tool to manipulate us and to get us to do things that we really don't want to do. And depending on how you grew up, you might have been shamed into doing a lot of things. But as an adult, when you start to feel shame, it's telling you that you need to have some self compassion for yourself. Shame is a very low energetic frequency that really can bring you down. And when you feel some shame, whether it's because something that you said or did today, or something that you said or did in the past, your reaction is based on your level of awareness. And when you realize that your level of awareness in the past was lower than your level of awareness that it is now, focus on the fact that you've grown, that you would never do that thing again. Don't beat yourself up. Have a little self compassion. Say, I wasn't at that level where I would have not said something unkind, or did something unkind, or did something worse to someone than just, saying a few words. It's time for you to focus on leveling up instead of swimming in that river of shame. And you start by having a little self compassion for yourself and saying, hey, that's where I was. I'm not this person anymore. You could, again, you could journal and get some of that out of why you did what you did. But self compassion is what shame needs at that moment. Yeah, I don't know if you want to add to that.
Um, well, with regards to self-compassion, right? We're our harshest critics. We're so hard on ourselves, so much more than we would be to a friend or a loved one, or heck, even a stranger at the supermarket. We really are hard on ourselves. And so practicing self-compassion and giving yourself the same pass that you would give someone else. Oftentimes, we've done some things in our past, or things that have happened to us. Maybe it wasn't even our own action, right?
Right.
And we carry around the shame, and we just drag it along with us year after year, and holding on to it and blaming ourselves for what happened. But 10, 15 years have passed, or even if it's just a year, right?
Mm-hmm.
That was the past. And it's important to move beyond that, and put it down and let it go and say, all right, that happened. And like you said, I'm a different person today.
Right. My
And
level of awareness has changed.
yes. And so, now you would handle it differently. And so allow yourself to kind of accept, all right, that happened. It's in the past. And now in a similar situation, I would handle it much differently. It's,
Right.
the classic, if you know better, you do better. And so
Absolutely.
don't continue to beat yourself up or live in shame over something that happened in the past. And
Hmm.
this is one of the things that I think people would definitely benefit in getting support, getting help to get past it, really.
Right. Yeah. And it's a big conversation, shame. There's so many shades of shame. And as you pointed out, sometimes we feel shame for something that was done to us. And that's well, many, many books are written about how we carry that shame of having someone do something to us. So we could be on this one for a very long time. Let me add the other feeling.
Mm. Resentment, of course. When we build up resentment towards other people or situations, ultimately we're really hurting ourselves. And it's, yes, the need to forgive yourself, others, but also, the need to kind of take action and do things differently, right? If you're in a situation that is conjuring resentment on a regular basis, then you have to look at the situation and say, all right, well, what do I need to change here? What needs to be altered? Because this is a source of recurring resentment for me.
Right. And then there's people that unfortunately if you have a lot of resentments, then you really need to look for someone to give you support, some counseling, because your perspective is probably not a healthy perspective. It's a very there's the lens of victimization. And so if you feel that you have a lot of resentment, speak to somebody, because it's just a matter of a shift in perspective that will allow you to free yourself, because it's about freedom. When you're living in resentment, you're living in a cage of solitude and of victimhood. And when you forgive somebody, it's not because their actions weren't wrong. It's that you no longer want to carry the burden of the resentments that you have.
Right. And I think you just said it's a shift in perspective. And so if you're building up resentments and you see yourself as a victim, realizing that you actually do have agency. You don't have to continue to put up with a certain type of behavior. And it's up to you to make the change of, speaking up for yourself or communicating, right?
Right.
Your needs and what's not working for you in a situation.
Right. Right. I love that you pointed that out. We go on to the next emotion. Emptiness might be telling me I need to do something creative. And I love that, because sometimes we just feel like we're just going along doing the same old thing day in and day out. And we're creatures of really of variety. We like a little spice in our life. And if you're feeling that every day is the same day, then it's time for you to start looking at things differently. And once you change how you see things change. There's opportunity sometimes, and we're just not aware of it. I remember that movie, Groundhog Day, with Bill Murray, right? And in the beginning, the day was the same every single day, and there was no variety, there was no nuance, there was no happiness or hope. And then progressively, he started trying different things that were not new, they had been there. So he started doing the ice sculpture. And I would challenge people to say, okay, what's in my community that I haven't even looked at, that I haven't even engaged in or noticed, there's so much to do in our communities, much more than there used to be, whether it's going on a bike ride with a group or going to a museum, a library, a lecture. There's a lot to do in our communities. And there's probably something you can do right there in your neighborhood.
Right. And in looking for clues, you might look to your own past for what are the things that you've let go that are no longer part of your life that you used to engage in, and would light you up and engage your creativity and an inner sense of like fulfillment in that form of expression. And so looking back in this instance for the kinds of activities that you were able to kind of shine your light through
Right.
and express yourself in
Yeah,
is also helpful.
definitely. We add the next slide.
I'm going to let you take this one because I know this is an area that you work a lot in, and it's not that I don't, but I think most of my clients are really usually dealing with other issues, but I know this is an area that.
Right. I focused on anger. Yeah, I did. You're right. I focused on anger because I used to have a very, very, a much more aggressive nature. And I did have anger issues. And so I focused on anger because I needed to work on my reactivity and my triggers. And like most people in the beginning, I didn't know how to handle anger. And anger really is telling us in a lot of cases that we just need to check in and modify our boundaries. And progressively, what I began to realize, not just that my boundaries in some cases were not expansive, that I was getting triggered, but all of the triggers are from the past. And so you check in with your boundaries and you allow people to it's got to be fluid. It's got to be malleable, where you let some people be you let everybody be who they are, but they influence you less because you have a boundary and you allow them, oh, that's their opinion. It has nothing to do with you. That's how they think. That's what works for them, and has nothing to do with me. And it's okay that that's how they are. I just don't have to interact with them. I don't have to agree with them. And it doesn't mean anything other than this is my space and that's your space. Right. And then the other thing with anger is, we have a lot of triggers, and most of our triggers are based in the past. Fights that we're fighting that we couldn't fight as young adults, as children. So anger is a huge topic. And things like meditation and journaling help us to really reduce the reactivity that we have. And also it allows us to say, okay, I this is my space and that's somebody else's space, and they don't have to clash.
And what I'll say about boundaries is that sometimes people don't have boundaries. And so they're constantly being stepped on, misused, abused, taken advantage of. And that can certainly conjure up anger and the feeling of unfairness and not being treated with respect and consideration. But establishing boundaries around what behavior you'll accept for others and how much you're willing to do and give of yourself, especially if you're in a habit of doing and giving for others where it's unequal, it's not reciprocated in any way, you're always the giver, others are always taking, and there's no balance in the relationship. And
Mhm.
so that can certainly lead to feelings of anger, right?
Right. Of course. Of course. Let me go on to anxiety.
Yeah, well, I'm yes, definitely take a breath. And this
Okay.
is it. It's it sounds super simple, right? But it's amazing how many folks don't allow themselves that moment of pausing and just being in the present moment, not focusing in the past or in the future, not engaging in the incessant thoughts that lead to more stress and more anxiety, worries and all of that. And just like, it's backed by research, taking a breath, practicing mindfulness and meditation actually reduces anxiety and stress. And so take a pause and, don't force yourself to keep going and going harder. Actually slow down, take a moment, regroup, and you'll feel better.
Right. Yeah, definitely. And, anxiety, obviously, there's some people that need medication for anxiety that works for them. And sometimes we have a habit of predicting a horrible future. And that's a habit. It's not who you are. And your imagination is creating, catastrophes when it could actually also be creating a beautiful future. And so sometimes it's a matter of catching yourself, and breathing is the best way to catch yourself, to start to breathe and say, okay, wait, breathe. And then, all right, I'm imagining the worst, but what's the possibility of it coming or creating something positive or wonderful or just flat, where it's nothing fantastic, but it's nothing horrible either.
Yeah, I mean, this makes me think of the Mark Twain quote, which I don't have in my back pocket, but it's goes something along the lines of, I've experienced so many
Oh, yeah.
horrible, terrible things in my life, and some of them actually happened, or something like that.
Right,
But
right, right,
it's
right. Or nothing, none of them actually happened or something like that. Yeah, I love that quote. Yeah, I don't have it either. But yes, good point. Good point. I like that quote. And this the final emotion. Stress might be telling me I need to take it one step at a time. And so often we become overwhelmed because we don't know what direction we're going to, where we're headed. And we, again, breathing into it and saying, all right, what is my destination? And start on a path, because sometimes there's too many possibilities, and we just have to start one step at a time and say, okay, this is the destination. And yeah, there are many things that I don't know about getting there, but these are the things that I do know. And just like if you were headed to, downtown, to a specific, store, you know how to get there. You're not going to get overwhelmed unless you start getting distracted. Oh, I'm going to go left. I'm going to go right. Or should I go left or should I go right? Is there traffic? Is there this? And it's like, if you know how to get to where you're going, it's less overwhelming. There's less stress because you start mapping it out, and you know what you don't want, and you're focused on what you want. And if you stay focused on what you want and the bits that are helping you, what's going to help you to get there, it's less stressful. And I'm not saying that stress is easy to handle all the time, but if you start to focus on, where do I want to go and what part of this is going to help me, and start ignoring all of those catastrophizing thoughts, it's less stressful. And of course, to add that breath, that breathing.
Yeah. Oftentimes we'll feel stressed and overwhelmed if we're looking at, the large outcome. How am I going to manage to do or achieve or handle something that feels really big? And we go into overwhelm, and we feel like we don't have the wherewithal to handle our situation. But if you just kind of pause and take a breath and look at it from the perspective of, well, what is the information that I have? What is the first step toward that outcome that I can take right now? And, it's breaking it down into small, simple steps, and then just taking action, one action at a time, taking it one step at a time. And this way you're not overwhelmed by overwhelm.
You're not overwhelmed by overwhelm. Correct. You're not. Yeah, no, but it's important. It's very important to pay attention to your emotions, to see what they're telling you, and have an idea of what's going on, what I should be doing in order to get through the emotion, to allow the emotion to flow through me. And of course, it helps if you have support, if you have a friend, a coach, a therapist that can help you when you are feeling all of these emotions and you don't know how to handle them. But this is a small guide to allow you to say, oh, you know what? I'm feeling sad. I'm just going to cry. I'm feeling alone. I'm just going to connect. I'm feeling anxiety. I'm just going to breathe. I'm just going to breathe, and just have that in your back pocket to say, one of the things that they say is, if you can label the emotion that you're having, that is a huge amount of knowledge that allows your body to say, oh, you got it. And so it reduces the intensity of that emotion because you've labeled it. And so now you have a reference point. You can say, oh, I'm feeling sadness. I'm feeling
right.
loneliness.
And awareness is the first step, right?
Absolutely.
And so connecting to how we're feeling, where we're feeling it, what's happening with us emotionally, physically, like where is it manifesting? That's all good information. And, the first step is awareness, and then go from there in terms of, what is this feeling? What is being called for here?
Right. Perfect. That's perfect. Yes. Awareness is the number one thing that we're really talking about, that recognizing the emotion. And once you do, you're able to do something. Absolutely. All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Lourdes.
Thank you, Maria.
And we'll see everyone on Thursday. I'm just a little bit off today. On Thursday with our Q&A, where we attempt to answer as much as we can whatever question that we get.
Right. And for anyone listening, if you need support, please reach out. Maria and I are here to help.
Great. Thank you, and have a great day.